Bartholomew Town, brought to you in part by the University of Rhode Island Online, Navigant Credit Union, Half Street Group, and Newport Film.
Bartholomew Town.
All right, so today we're talking about an issue that is something that's been percolating on a number of different levels, both on a community basis level. It actually became part of the previous mayoral race in Cranston, and it continues to this day. There's a lot of ways to look at this story, which is the Cranston Police Department. They have an outdoor firing range. It's over on Phoenix Avenue. It's over by Cranston West and the Western Hills Middle School. If you're familiar, that's kind of up in the woods, if you will, of Cranston. But this has become an extremely contentious issue in recent years, primarily due to what seems to be escalating noise concerns for nearby students, educators, and residents. And obviously, there are all kinds of reasons why a police department would want to have its own or have access to a gun range. It's a requisite part of the job of a police officer to not only train, but be able to maintain higher levels of performance and certification when it comes to the use of weapons. At the same time, the proximity to schools, the proximity to students, and the fact that we live in an environment right now, let's be honest about it, where there's really no space for the integration of gunshots into an education space, right? And we've heard people describe this as a war zone, 8 o'clock in the morning, 6:30 at night, shots being fired. And it's something that, again, it just really was not fully addressed. There was discussion about enclosing this gun range. There was some discussion about moving this. I brought this up in a mayoral debate for Cranston about a year ago. And today we have two people who have been on the front lines advocating for this issue for years. And we talking offline, you actually were describing this has been going. This isn't a new issue. I guess the best thing to do, Martha and Patricia, if you each want to introduce yourselves and explain how you've been working on this issue and why it's such an impactful one for you and for the community. You can start with Patricia. We'll go in reverse alphabetical order by first name.
Okay. My name is Patricia Schoeninger. I have lived in my home for almost 50 years. So I am quite aware of what the gun range was at the time that I moved into my home and what the gun range has developed and expanded into now. When I first moved here, the gun range was the pistol range. That's what we called it. And it turned into the, actually they have here, let me just quote this real quickly, what it expanded. It expanded into the largest multi-purpose police training facility in the state. So this range developed and expanded around my property. It's not the other way around. And I have been voicing my opinion publicly since 2021. It would have been sooner, but we had COVID. So it's been well over 5 years that I publicly have been speaking about this. But it's been many years before then that I was also speaking with neighbors and all of that. So it's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a journey. And it's like you said, it's been a personal one for you because of your home being proximate to the range. Martha, if you want to introduce yourself and then kind of explain how you got involved in this ongoing sort of seemingly unresolved issue that, although there's been moments where it's percolated, it just seems to always kind of get buried after a little bit of talk from the administration in Cranston.
Excuse me. Hi, my name is Martha DiMeo, and I live 0.3 miles from the range. And it all came to a head during COVID. As Pat said, it is now the largest range. And the big issue, in addition to it becoming the largest, the weaponry change. Now they're shooting AR-15s. And not only is it Cranston, it's the feds, other cities, private organizations. So I got involved. It really came to a head during COVID because now I'm home 24 hours a day. I'm trying to work. And there's fusillades of bullets raining down on my neighborhood. It was and still is a war zone. And so it was suggested to me to get a petition going. So between the variants, Pat and I collected over 100 signatures, and a few other neighbors as well, collected over 100 signatures in a weekend. And with those signatures, I went to City Hall and I asked Mayor Hopkins, you need to have a town hall and meet with us. And he emphatically refused. And to this day, he has yet to speak to us directly. But in the interim, he has made various promises that have nothing that has come to fruition. So now here we are at the beginning of a school year again, going into year 6. Bullets are raining down. A key point that happened in March that can't be overlooked is he sent his finance director, or I should say his finance director, went before the planning commission and lied about what's going on in Cranston. They said the mayor, supposedly he put forward to enclose it $5 million, and the finance director, Tom Zendelis, went before the commission and lied about the decibel level, lied about who's using the range, that is no more being rented out, and he lied about suppressors, silencers being used. And so with that, the planning commission rubber stamped a veto and said it's not needed. And the head of the planning commission, Steve Frias, said he will continue to veto any idea of enclosing the range. Now, as you know, Ken Hopkins was on your show last year, and he said he was working on it to move the range. He repeated that in another debate. Nothing has been done in a year, and I lost a week last week of working in sanity as bullets rained down on my home for 8 to 12 hours a day.
This is an outrageous situation. There's no doubt about it. Patricia, please, sorry to cut you off there. I knew you were motioning to jump in, and I certainly want to hear your take on all of this.
No problem. Well, Bill, the Cranston Police Department, they control my community and they control the schools. They send out this is the new schedule that they just sent out to us. Okay, they tell us to plan our days according to the gun range schedule. So for the next 3 months, August through October, we will hear gunfire every day to up to 8 hours a day. And 2 days during that week is 12 hours a day, which is Tuesday and Thursday. Today's Tuesday. So there's, I can be hearing gunfire from now until at least 8 o'clock tonight. And this isn't a joke. This is what they actually expect us to live this way. And they think it's a normal, healthy environment. The police go into the schools over here, and they tell the school children that the gunfire they're hearing is good gunfire, and that don't worry because they're the good guys. And the school officials, the principals, and the guidance counselors and all that, they go along with it. Okay.
I want to before, because that is such an incredible point. That's the first time I certainly want to hear the rest of everything that you have to say here, but I think it's so important to jump in there. So you're saying that the Cranston Police Department are turning up at Western Hills Middle School and Cranston West with approval of the administration of those respective schools. And they're telling students and educators, yeah, you're going to hear gunfire inclusive of AR-15s being fired throughout the day. But trust us, it's good guys. In those words, that's what they're telling students?
Yes. And actually, when I testified at the State House for the gun bill that Brandon Potter was sponsoring, that's what the police chief, his testimony, he came out and he said that. Now, it wasn't the police chief from Cranston. It was another police chief. But those were his words. He says, they say to them, oh, don't worry. We're the good guys. We're the good guys. Okay, so this is what they're telling these children. And come on, school shootings, we just had 2025. So you're telling school children to ignore, get used to, and to feel safe hearing gunfire outside their classrooms. To me, that's a total red flag. I don't care who you are. That's dangerous, and it's a tragedy waiting to happen. And I testified to that also, besides at city council meetings, numerous over the past 5 years. I also testified at the State House to all the state reps there about the gun bill. And I showed them the video that I took at the football field with the gunfire going off, and those kids don't do a damn thing. They act like there's nothing going on. I just did another video last week. Same thing. The kids are out there sitting on the bench, getting ready for football practice. The gunfire is going off like crazy. Those kids don't even flinch. So to me, wow, that is a tragedy waiting to happen. And we've been sounding the alarm to everybody that we can, and they turn a blind eye and they bury their heads in the sand and they say, it's not my job. It's not my problem. It's a local problem. And the local people, they don't do anything, the officials, because the Cranston Police Department runs this community over here and they run those schools.
Wow.
And Bill, I want to tell you too, after Uvalde shooting, and if you recall, it was also the shooting in Buffalo at that time. It was right after Memorial Day. And it was a Tuesday after Memorial Day. And I'm sitting home and I was having friends come over that afternoon who don't live in Rhode Island. And I called the police chief and I said, when is this going to stop? I said, my friends are not from Rhode Island. They're not used to it. He told me the same thing. He said, just tell those kids that this is good gunfire. And I almost dropped the phone. And I said, would you like to get a psychologist involved with that? Which, let's talk about that, because we've had medical experts from every discipline raising the red, speaking out, saying this needs to stop, from a psychiatrist that testified to neuropsychologists to epidemiologists and all the research out of Brown on the decibel level, and it's all been ignored.
No.
It's unbelievable.
And also to add to that, about talking about decibel levels, it was April 25th, 2024, and Target 12, Kate Wilkinson, the Cranston Police Department did a demonstration at Cranston West, and to show how high the decibels were on school property. They were 60 decibels. And the decibel level for the noise ordinance for the city of Cranston is 55 for outside of school and for the residential area that's there. And not for nothing, how can you have the police investigating the police? That's ridiculous. That's conflict of interest to me. So when they were doing that demonstration, that was staged, and they still couldn't get it under 60 decibels. So right there, they're breaking the noise ordinance, and you know what happened, Bill? Nothing. No one's held accountable, and it just falls away like everything else.
This is one of those situations where there seems to be a huge gap in oversight in terms of, I'm admittedly unaware of how gun ranges in general are regulated on a statewide basis, be it a private gun club, a police range, a citizen that has their own shooting range in the backyard, whatever it may be. But you raise so many critical issues there, psychologically and practically, the negative impact here. Obviously, the decibel level is something that is in and of itself a violation of the ordinances set forth by the city of Cranston. But more than anything, this is just from a cultural standpoint, it just seems like as a society, we've got to do better. What are some of the realistic alternatives? Because of course you could shut the place down, you could enclose it and create probably some sort of buffer zone. It's hard to imagine you could completely soundproof a gun range where automatic or semi-automatic, weapons are being fired. But what are some of the alternatives here? And given that this particular gun range is used by state police and other agencies, I think South Kingstown uses this. This is not something that is a minor component of the police training ecosystem in Rhode Island. So what can be done here on a practical basis to move or alter this gun range so that there's some level of satisfaction from both parties?
There's three things that can be done immediately. One, they could go to a military base. They're now using military-grade weapons. They can go to a military base. Number two is there's 40 other ranges in the state, plus a new indoor range that was built in Richmond underground.
Right.
And number three, Cranston, after the New York Times article broke, the Providence police invited Cranston to go use their range in Scituate, and that call was never returned. So there's three options that could stop this shooting today, and those kids don't have to go to school the rest of this year and tomorrow with gunfire outside their classroom door.
Wow. We see Cranston right now as it's an interesting political ecosystem in and of itself, because Republicans have an unconventional amount of success for a town that is not decidedly red. You have a Republican mayor. Now you have all kinds of weird things happening with the city council. I mean, that's a totally different conversation, but the underbelly of Cranston is very Republican, and as such, you would think is probably more tied to Second Amendment advocacy, so on and so forth, than if it was a Democrat-controlled town. Of course, the city council, like I just mentioned, the president just resigned. It is Democrat-controlled, but let's be honest about it, it's a conservative town. So do you think the political will is there to do something about this, or is this something that's going to require an enormous amount of pressure from unelected folks, citizens or other civilians or otherwise?
Well, it's not a Democrat Republican. The Democrats were ineffective as the Republicans. They were apathetic. When the psychiatrist went before the council and laid out exactly what this does to the human body, to kids, to veterans, to anybody, she was think that she hit the 4-minute mark exactly. The Democrats, as the Republicans, do not want to go near this. As Pat said, the police run the city, and they were very adamant about not worrying about losing the police union vote. So there it is, laid out. Craven and the last city president, Miss Morano, 3 times we requested for this topic to be put on the docket since January to discuss what was said at that planning commission. And she denied 3 times to put it on the docket.
So this hasn't even made a recent docket in terms of just general city council conversation. This has just been flushed down the memory hole, so to speak.
We have to go and speak during an undocketed time. And the last time I went, of course, when it's I went and said, put this forward what Tom Zandel has said. And because it's undocketed, of course, she's not going to open it up to the floor. And there was a little contention, and she shut me down. That I went undocketed because she refused to put the planning commission decision on the docket.
Well, let's face it. How many politicians are going to say in public that school children hearing gunfire in school is okay? You got the principal saying it, but, take that for what it is. But they don't want to say it. They don't want to come out in public and say it. So they dismiss it. They ignore it. Our councilman, who was Chris Papalakis, he wouldn't even answer our emails. He wouldn't answer our emails. He wouldn't answer our phone calls. Nothing. We got no support, even from our councilman. We couldn't even get support. So this has just been a thing of talk about just citizens. It's just been really Martha and myself. And yes, there's been other neighbors and stuff like that. But really, we're the ones that have been carrying the torch here. And, it's very difficult when you don't get any support. It's like, it's mind-boggling, Bill, to me. It's mind-boggling that it's going on for this long. And, the police have a lot of control in this.
I want to say, though, that it's not completely true. Other people have spoken out, and I want to be very clear. The people have spoken out in the New York Times article and testified. A parent testified about kids hitting the ground during track practice, a student who wasn't from Cranston heard it for the first time. A parent testified about a new teacher ready to go in lockdown, hearing it for the first time in September, new to the school. So other people have spoken out, and when they have, there's been repercussions, and they suddenly back off.
Wow.
So we have not been alone, but we have been the two that are not fearful.
Correct.
Well, thank you for being there on the front lines and challenging the power system here, because this is a crazy situation that some people will laugh off. And look, this is at a time where you had a city councilman and one of the state representatives from Cranston, sending out all kinds of rambling press releases about how they're going to try to pull tax incentives for Garden City because Garden City chose to not renew a lease for the Newport Creamery, and that was World War III, in the same town that you've got a war zone happening proximate to residents and students. It's an outrageous situation. We're going to follow up with the police chief, Michael Winquist. We're going to follow up with Mayor Ken Hopkins, as well as the city council, and try to elevate the story as much as we can, and definitely appreciate your citizen advocacy, both Martha and Patricia. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. And Bill, please follow up with Tom Zandelis, because last Monday, when it was outrageous, I got on the phone and in complete rage and said, get over here now and you tell me suppressors are being used.
Yeah.
I had an email and 2 messages to him. He needs to be held accountable for what he testified to. Because in addition, Bill, there's a whole nother issue. In addition, that bill that proposal to enclose it also included to clean up the lead. This 70 years of lead in that ground by a supposedly protected Providence water supply.
Wow, we're going to be looking at that as well, no doubt about it.
And I just have
that was brought to the city council. I brought that to the city council 4 years ago with information about the lead that the Providence police had to clean up in Situate. And again, it fell on deaf ears. I could have been talking about a pothole for all the city council here.
And also too, Bill, a lot of people don't realize the location of this range. Like, you're thinking like you're in the woods. You're not in the woods. Okay. Mm-hmm. It's literally 600 yards from the range to Cranston West. It's literally right on the main street. So this isn't like, you drive a mile down the road and this is a densely populated city community, and they are in the middle of us. And we surround them. But these are homes. This isn't like the woods. They're not in the woods here. There's no woods. And
there's no security there either.
No, there isn't.
Bill, you should come by. It's phenomenal. Anybody can drive up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be taking a field trip, no doubt about it. And this is something we're going to continue to work on, no doubt. Martha, Patricia, again, thank you for your time. Thank you for your advocacy and for having the courage to step forth on an issue that is no doubt impacting many more people than just the two of you, and for trying to hold people accountable on something that is completely and utterly outrageous. And I think anybody, even the most fearsome individual, would understand why kids hearing AR-15 fire during the day, number one, is disturbing, and it is even more disturbing that in any way, shape, or form that could be normalized and qualified as, hey, it's the good guys shooting. It is way too dangerous to continue on this pathway. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Bill.
Bartholomew Town is a truly independent news organization, accredited by Lion, the leading consortium of independent news providers in the country. And we certainly thank our sponsors, Newport Film, the University of Rhode Island Online, Navigant Credit Union, Half Street Group, and many others who have helped sustain our journalism. And we also thank our listeners who have supported us at patreon.com/BartholomewTown, or you can click the little heart wherever you're listening right now. For as little as $3 per month, you too can help sustain independent journalism in Rhode Island.